Hello again, everyone. This is Zombie Kids Rule, and I'm back with another RPG Maker MZ tutorial. This is the second video about plugins, if you have no idea how to find your plugins, how to turn plugins on or off, where you can find your extra plugins that don't come with your automatically come with your project, I strongly recommend look at the previous video that I made about the Change Equip on Battle MZ and the Alt Menu Screen plugin, because I do go over that. Or alternatively, hopefully you can find other videos about plugins. But so in this second video, I want to specifically highlight the two plugins, ButtonPicture and TextPicture. Now, I did cover these a little bit in 2 videos ago, basically when I was showing the dice on screen, the visible dice rolls, but I did some more testing with these plugins because I had some questions about it. I wanted to see what you were capable of doing with it. I wanted to see what any limitations there were, and so I want to show you what I found, because again, I mean, you could certainly test it yourself, but this might help somebody. So I do want to cover these two plugins, and as I covered before, this little puzzle piece up here is your plugin manager, and again, you can turn them on and off from here. Double click on name. It gives you access to the plugins that automatically are in your project to begin with, and then again, watch the other video if you want to hear more about and see going to other folders and copying. So I'll get my caveats out of the way really quickly. As I've said in my previous videos, I'm still new to RPG Maker in general. I have no programming experience at all in my background. I've only been doing this about a year. What I'm trying to show are things that I've learned how to do from either watching tutorials, a lot of just experimenting, seeing what works, just testing things, asking questions, and then once I figure out how to make something work, if it's something that I think other people might want to know about and I haven't seen like a tutorial for it, then I try to make a tutorial and just try to give back so that new people like me have more resources out there to find answers to questions. I want to put in a plug for rpgmakerweb.com, the forums over there. If you have not joined, you should. It's a great group of folks over there. They are very helpful in answering questions. I think I also tell, usually saying, look, what I'm showing is just a way that I have figured out how to do something. I'm not saying it's the best way. I'm not saying it's the most efficient. I'm just saying it is a way that I have discovered to do it without using plugins. Again, I'm just barely scratching the surface of using plugins right now. And I only did these because I had a particular thing in mind. I wanted to do that dice roll on the screen, and that led me to do the ButtonPicture plugin, and that led me to experiment a little bit. So that's a lot of things that I try to build maybe plugins do it better automatically. I'm just trying to learn how to what functionality I can make in the RPG Maker itself. I also don't spend a lot of time for these tutorials making fancy maps or graphics or animations or things like that, because right now I'm just showing raw functionality. This is what you can do in the engine in a particular way, and hopefully that helps. The fancy stuff, the pretty stuff, all that comes later when I'm trying to put my own game together. All right, I think that's my caveats. Now, let me show you essentially what this is doing, and then we'll break it down a little bit. So I have these 4 events up here. The first one is just showing the 2 plugins that are working. So the first thing it says is click on INT. So I'm going to get rid of this dialog box, and now I'm trying to move my character and I can't move them with the arrows. I'm clicking and I can't move my character. This INT is actual the plugin. So it's a text, it's a picture text or text picture. So when I click on it, it then says, okay, this is a test of the text plugin and ButtonPicture plugin, the 2 together. And then this concludes the test, and now I can move again. Okay, now my character is free to move. And when I click someplace, he moves. Okay, perfect. So that was that one. Now, this next one is, it was answering a very specific question. So as you see on the left-hand side of the screen over here, it has a whole list of things. I'm going to do it again. I only had it show on the screen for 4 seconds, basically. And what I would show you is that the text has different colors, and there's also an icon, and there's also the name several times. And I'll show you what I was testing when I show you the event. Okay, so there's this big long list of things that is actually a picture. It's actually a text as a picture. So now I go over here, and it's the same thing, but it's getting the information in a different way. It's actually, if I remember this one, I think this is, oh no, I'll cover it when I go over it. But it's getting the information in a different way. And I will point out again that I'm trapped. While that's on the screen, I can't move around. Oh, but now I can. Okay. And then the last one is, again, I was testing a very specific thing. Whose attributes do you want to check? I'm going to check reads, and then it just says strength of 10, and I'll explain why it does that. It's just a very simple test. It's just showing how to use an array of doing things, and that's it. That's what those things do. So again, here's this where you have to click something. Okay, here's this where it's showing that you can use different colors, and you can call icons, and you can do things like that. And then here's this, which is it's basically getting the information in a different way. It's using variables. And then this last one, okay, which is allowing you to select something, and then it's actually using an array to get information. And that's it, okay? So again, the two plugins that are being used are ButtonPicture and TextPicture. That's what's being used, okay? Now, this first event, this is not really complicated, and I think this is very similar to what I showed in a couple videos ago when I was showing the dice rolls. Okay, so the very first thing I do is I have a control variable for text plugin test. It's just variable 300, and I'm setting the value of that variable to int. Right. So when you're here, if you take a variable, and in the script field, anything in quotation marks is going to be the value if it's a word, right? So you can type anything in here. I have some of my earliest tutorials, in fact, my very earliest tutorials were on dialogue. And this is one of the things that you can do is you can plug words, whole sentences into the script field in quotation marks, and that's the value of your variable. Okay, now, so that's all I did, int for intelligence. Then, once I set that variable, I wanted to test to see, does this plugin, the TextPicture plugin, does it allow you to use a variable instead of actual words? And the answer is yes. So as you can see here, the plugin is TextPicture. There's only one command, set TextPicture. That's all it is. It defaults to that. It explains what it's doing. Then it has the text down here. And when I click on it, this is where you type your text in. Well, instead of typing in like int, I wanted to see, will it recognize a variable? And it absolutely does. Okay, that was the answer to my question. So in this text field, you can use variables instead of just, and that way the text and the picture will change as the variable changes. So that's why I wanted to know if it would do that. And then, of course, to get to this command is you double click, and it's in tab 3, plugin commands, and then in the blank space you have to open it, select which one you want, right? And then when I say OK, the text down here is empty. Double click, and then I type whatever I want, right? Okay, so then after you do this, you have to do a picture. The plugin tells you that. So picture 1, because it's the first picture that's on the screen, it has to be a blank image because the text from the text that you're putting in is becoming the picture. So it's a blank picture. You're not selecting one of these pictures, right? It's just blank. you have to designate where it goes, right? So upper left it's the upper left corner of the picture is where you're designating it. Remember, down here is the X and Y. Those are the pixels on the screen, right? Those are the pixels, not the X and Y of the map. It's the actual X and Y of the pixels. And you just have to experiment with this to figure out if it's showing up where you want it to. Same thing with the scale of the picture, how big you want your picture to be. Opacity, you can play around with that. And then blend mode, I showed that in the dice tutorial where it had this really ugly looking harsh white background. And then when I selected multiply, it actually, in that one, made it blend in. And I actually like that a lot better. So you have to kind of play with the blend mode. And again, you get to that by just event command, page 2, show picture, and then you put whatever you want. So you've got your plugin where you're designating the text. You've got your show picture with a blank picture that is making the text into a picture. And then I wanted to say, okay, can I take that text that I'm using in the text picture, and can I make that clickable? And of course the answer is yes. So you're using both of these plugins together. So again, this is the ButtonPicture, and there's only one command. And it says I need a picture number and I need a comment event that I'm going to call. So picture number was picture 1 because that's what I used in the text picture, right? I've used picture 1, but it could be any picture in theory. And then which comment event? So double click and it gives me the ability to choose my comment event. I have my text plugin test is what I did. Okay, and that's all that's needed. Right? So again, double click, page 3, plugin commands, empty, button picture, okay, and then again, you have to change the picture number and the comment event number. Okay? And then all I'm having it do is I'm saying, well, actually, it stops here, right? Well, actually, I'm sorry. No, it doesn't. It gives the player direction. There's a text box. Click on /V300, which is INT, right? Click on INT. And then it sets the movement route of the player to repeat, and they're not moving. That's what freezes them in place, right? So if you ever need to freeze the player in place while something else is happening, you can set this movement route for the player, no movement commands, and then have it repeat and not wait for completion, okay? And then that will freeze the player in place, essentially. So again, to get there, double click, page 2, set movement route, player, right? None of this stuff, leave this empty, turn this off, set repeat movements, and that's how you freeze the player in place. And then you release the player in another event, or you could do it later on in this event if you wanted to. So that's all this is doing here, but this is calling a common event. So what is common event 3? Go over here, and we go to common events, common event 3, and this is very, very simple. So just one second, I'm going to pause. Okay, sorry, I'm back. I had to pause there. So what this comment event is doing is that, first of all, it's just showing text, right? This is the test of text plugin and ButtonPicture plugin. Then it's releasing the player. So this movement route, right, is set movement route, no actual movement to the player, no repeating. So basically it's going to go through this super fast, and then it's going to release the player. It's going to end. Then this is turning on a switch. So text plugin test equals on. It's turning on a switch, and then it's erasing the picture, and then it's exiting the comment event. Now, why is it doing this? So erase picture. Well, because when I'm here, what I discovered was what I wanted to test was I had this text originally. This concludes the test. I had that over on this page, and what happened was even though it's waiting for something to be clicked and it's calling a comment event, it continues to run through the event. So this text right here was showing before I wanted it to. And so I said, I don't want that to happen. So what I did was I said, fine, I'm going to have the common event turn on a switch. And the condition for this page is that switch being on. So when you first arrive on this map, right, the page of the event where the highest page where the conditions are met is this one, because there are no conditions. This switch isn't on yet, so this page can't run. So this page runs. When the common event gets called, it ends up turning on that switch. So that means this page is now the highest page where the conditions are met. So this is the one that will run. And that's where it shows that text, right? Because I have it set to auto run. So when you leave the common event, as soon as that switch is triggered, then this event, it's going to move to this page and it's going to auto run. It's going to show the text. Then I turn the switch off because I want to basically, I don't want it to just keep running over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what auto run would do. It would just go through and then repeat, through and repeat. And so I'm turning the switch off, and then I'm waiting 60 frames, basically a second. And then that is going to make this page the page where the highest page where the conditions are met, which means it's waiting and ready, action button, for me to click on it again. That's all that's happening. Okay, so the reason I built this was I wanted to see, could I make text into a picture, and then could I use that text as a picture as a button click? And the answer is yes, you can. Okay, so that was that question. Now, this one was answering the question, am I limited to the same number of rows in the text, in the show text? So when I'm here in an event and I go to show text, there's a limited number, right? So first of all, when I hover over here, you have all these different things that you can use in the text field. So I wanted to test, can I use these things in the plugin? Like getting the nth variable, or the nth actor, or the nth party member, or changing the color of the text, or getting the icon, right? Can I do these things in the plugin? And the answer is yes. Of the ones I tested, they all work in the text in the plugin. But when you're here, there is a limited number of rows, right? You can only have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows in your text box in the regular event. Okay, so I said, is that the same for this picture text? And the answer is no, it is not the same. So when I open this up, you can see it's not limited to 4 rows. It goes down and down and down and down. So that was the answer to the first question, is when you're in this plugin and you're converting text to a picture, you're not limited to the 4 rows like you would be in the show text in the event. And then you can see here, this /C and then a number in brackets, that's changing the color. So I was experimenting with that. And then the /I and a number, that's showing the icon. And then the /N and the number in brackets, that's getting the name of the first actor. Yes, the first actor. Whereas the /P and the 1 in brackets is the name of the first party member, right? They could be different. And so I was just testing, can I use those things in the plugin for text and does it work? And the answer is absolutely. Okay, so that's all I was testing there, and everything else is exactly the same. So I set my text, then I show the picture, right? Picture number 1, it's blank. I say where I want it to be, make sure I have the X and Y where I want it, make sure I have the scale, and then it's done. I wait 240 frames, which is essentially 4 seconds, right? 60 frames is 1 second, and then I erase the picture. So that was the test. Can you change the color? Can you are you limited to 4 rows? Can you show icons? Can you get the names of the actors, the party members? I didn't test whether you could change the text size, but I don't know why you couldn't. So that would be something else to test. And then this one is basically was basically doing the test of, can you do that variable, right? Which I already knew the answer to. So here I set up a bunch of variables for things like player 1 strength, player 1 intelligence, player 1 wisdom, and I gave them a value. Now, in a real game, you would probably have perhaps variable values that can change, and that's why the benefit of this. When you're in here creating a text that you're going to show as a picture, if you do it this way, your STR, strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, think D&D, that's going to stay static, right? That text is going to stay static. But when you call this up, if you're using a variable that may be changing, right? Maybe someone's strength increases, maybe someone's dexterity increases, maybe someone's charisma goes down. When you change the variable, that will change the picture that's shown, right? So that there's a value in doing it this way, and this was just showing, when I was testing it myself. Again, not limited to 4 rows. Can use a variable, so you can use a combination of words or symbols or whatever stuff you type in, and the variables as well. So you can use a combination. That's what that was answering. And then, of course, you have to show the picture afterwards, because the text picture requires a picture that has no image. And then, of course, I wait so it's on screen for 4 seconds so you can see it, and then I erase the picture. Okay? Let's see. And then, yes, I fixed that before. Now, the last one, what this is showing is I was testing the use of an array. So this is one of the things I'll show in another tutorial coming up, is how you can put a bunch of information about a character, about a party member, about an actor in an array. And then what you do is, when you want to change that information, you essentially pull it out of the array, change it, and then put it back in. Or, that's maybe not exactly what's happening, but basically you can update information in the array. So the tutorial that I still have to make is showing an example of where you have skills. Like, let's say you have lock-picking skill, and you have, say, 10 levels of it, level 1 through 10. And as you use your lockpicking skill, it can increase your level after a certain number of uses. So what you would have is, in your array, right, you might have an array of lockpicking skill where all of your actors are in that array, or you might have an array for, say, Reed, and it has all of his skills in it that you're going to use. And so what happens is that at any given time, you can look at what is Reed's skill level in thieving or lockpicking, and how many times has he used it. Because once you hit a certain number of uses, you can make his level go up in that skill, and then reset the tracker, if you will, to 0. So anyway, that's a whole different tutorial. So what this is showing is let's say I wanted to have all of the actor Reed, all of his attributes in an array. So I didn't do them all because I was just testing it, but in an array, I put strength, STR, of 10, intelligence of 11. And so when you're creating an array, you just take a variable, use the script, and anything you put in brackets, anything in between the brackets, is going to be in your array. And it's comma separated. So remember what I said earlier, if you anything within quotations is going to be the value. So the value of the first position in this array is STR. And then the value of the second position in this array is 10. And then the value of the third position is INT. And then the value of the fourth position is 11. Now here's the weird thing, though. It's not position 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's actually position 0, 1, 2, and 3. It's just something you have to remember. But the point is that you can make an array of all these different things. All right, and then I did one for Priscilla, right? Because I wanted to show the choosing. You choose which person you're doing. But the array is anything in between these brackets, right? It could be all letters. It could be, different things, but it's comma separated. Now I show a text, which attributes do you want, whose attributes do you want to check? And then you have your show choices, right? Slash P1 and slash P2, the numbers in brackets, that's party member 1, party member 2. Okay, and it sets your when P1, when P2. And then this is the script that is getting the information from the array. So array 249, a variable 249 is an array of information. Position 0, right? Position 0 is the str. So what this is doing is it's saying, take the variable 256, player attribute, and make it equal to the variable 249, the array position 0, right? Position 0, which is str. And so the script is $game capital variables dot value, and then in parentheses the variable number 249, and then in brackets the position of the information that you want. So position 0 is the first entry, str. Okay, and then this next one is I'm doing the same thing because I want both of these. I want the attribute and I want the value. So I'm setting variable 257 player attribute number is equal to $game variables capital dot value, and then in parentheses the variable number 249, and then the information that is in position 1, which is actually the second position in the array. Okay, so this 0 is pulling str, 1 is pulling 10. And then all I'm doing is displaying it. So in the text, it's going to be slash variable 256, which is str, slash variable 257, which is 10. Okay, and so the way you do that is you take a variable, use the script, and then you type it right in there. All right, and it's basically using a script to get that information. And so again, if you're in your variable, right, control variables, you pick your variable, just click on script. It's perfect right there. Okay. And then there's nothing fancy here. This is thing that's already been done. Instead of the only thing I did here was I put the colon in there, right? Because I have a variable, then I have a manual colon, a manual space, and then another variable. And that's what it's showing. Okay. And then of course, after the text picture, you have to have a picture with a blank image, tell it where to go. And then when 2, right, when it's player 2, which is Priscilla, it's the exact same thing. And now you'll notice that you can reuse the variable. So you have a variable for the array with all this information. You have another variable for Priscilla's array with all this information. But then you can use these variables over and over again because you don't have to remember the value. You just have to have it long enough to show it. And then once you move away, you can rewrite that variable anytime you want. So this is one of the potential values of using an array of information is instead of having a variable, for Reed's strength and intelligence and wisdom and, constitution and all this other stuff, and you have, 10 variables, you have one variable with an array. And then you access that with reusable variables, okay? And then so this part down here is basically the same. You use the same variable, but you change the variable number from 249 to 248, which is Priscilla. And then same position 0, which is str. And then again, reuse the variable, change the variable number to 248 for Priscilla, and then position number 1, which is 17. This is the same, right? You don't have to do anything different. It's all repeated. This is essentially the same because you're showing it in the exact same spot. And then here, you're basically waiting 4 seconds so you have a chance to see it, and then erasing the picture. Okay, so this one was just really about using an array to get to and still using these plugins for different reasons. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So again, I will do another tutorial later on this whole idea of using a skill, increasing a skill level by use. And again, that's also using an array. There's other ways of doing it, but it's using an array to store the information. And that can conserve on variables. So think about it this way. Let's say I have a party of 8, right? I have 8 potential party members, and all of them have, I don't know, say 20 skills, right? Or in this example, they have 10 attributes. Well, if I take 8 party members times 10 attributes, that's at least 80 variables, right? 80 variables. Well, I don't have to use that many, because instead I can use 8 variables to make 8 arrays, right? One array for each of the attributes. You could actually put it all in one array, but that would be really big. So I now, instead of 80 variables, I use 8 for the arrays, and then I have reusable variables to get access to that information. And I only need perhaps 10, right? So instead of using 80 variables, maybe I use 18. So anyway, it's a way to cut down on variables. And that's pretty much it. So again, it was these two plugins, ButtonPicture, TextPicture, and the biggest thing was I just wanted to really, the takeaway from this for me is that when you're using that text picture, you're not limited to the 4 rows like you are in the text, the event show text. But yet you can use all those different features like changing the color of the text, getting the icon image, the name of the party member, the name of the actor, then you can use variables. So you can do all that and then convert it to a picture and then display it on screen for a whole bunch of different uses. Actually, right now that'll be another tutorial. I'm making a big kind of like a journal type thing, where you have access to all kinds of different information, and I'm playing around with using these plugins to do it. So anyway, that's it. Again, I hope this is helpful, folks. If these videos are helpful, or if at least you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making these, then please consider liking, subscribing, getting notifications, leaving comments. I try to respond to all the comments that I get. If you have suggestions, if you have questions, if you have requests, you can feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to try to help. And then, if you ask me to do something and I have absolutely no way to do it, I can always ask for help and then maybe come back, or it could just be outside of my capabilities right now. And I'll just tell you that and say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. But it doesn't hurt to ask. So again, I hope this is helpful, folks. I hope you're having a great holiday season wherever you are and whatever you celebrate. I just want to say happy holidays. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will try to get more videos up in the near future. I have a whole bunch of stuff built. I've been experimenting a lot. I have a whole bunch of stuff built. I just have to find the time to make the videos and actually make them come out right before I post them. So again, in the meantime, folks, have a great afternoon. Happy gaming, happy game developing, happy holidays, and I will talk to everybody later. Bye.